Jasmine.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I was tired today. I'm not as usual, right? but
Yeah,
but I took a power nap, so I feel good. I feel ready. I'm like, okay, I'm ready
that's
to
really nice. I'm so jealous.
sorry.
No naps occurred. I
Oh,
am, as you can tell. Yeah, I'm fresh off the. I'm fresh off the shift. Y'all are getting regular, degular, nana realness with the house stress with the accent coat stunting on everybody.
Ooh, go off, sis. Go off.
Listen, it was one of those, you know what? Take me as I am. I'm not
yeah,
even pressed for that.
yeah. I can dig it. I can dig it. You
Yeah.
see the buns here. This is a war zone over
Yes,
here.
but I love the bun action. Listen, y'all are lucky to get bun action today because when you get that, she about to spit. Okay, Bars McGee is in full display when the bun is in action. So we all see that. Listen, prepare your life, please, because
Oh God.
listen, no games are played when the bun is in action at
Man,
all.
fun has a whole identity of its own.
It's a
So
bouncing. Oh, you about to hear it. I am here for the bun action. But hello, y'all. Hi. I hope we have a lot of people tuning in ready to share their stories on this episode of Elevate and Relate. As you know, we are going to be discussing ground zero growth, how to rise from your version of your lowest. Hello, Naomi. Hey, boo.
hi, Naomi.
Right. And for those that are just tuning in, if you do not know me, my name is Nana Carr. I am a transformational behavior coach. My job as a transformational behavior coach is to balance radical transformation. I'm practicing my new thing, coaching and behavioral science to guide achievers to disrupt toxic patterns to create work and habits rich in creative freedom, ease, and authentic fulfillment.
Okay then, girl. Spit some Fendi facts. Okay. Hello, y'all. And if y'all do not know me, I'm Jasmine Meadows. I'm a light worker and founder and CEO of Discover Her, which is a movement and a shift in momentum for women who are rediscovering themselves. And it's specifically geared towards love, light, and learning. So all about the energies, okay?
Yes. She's otherwise her other for those that are just tuning in, because we're gonna have a lot of new people today. She's also known as Bars McGee. She's gonna be spitting some lines. That's what I call her. But if you are new here, also, please understand that Elevate and Relate is a posturing. We are your guides, okay? We're your guides, meaning that this is a conversation, meaning that
Yes.
you talk to us and we talk to you. We want to share our experiences and you share your experiences. This is a give and take situation, okay?
Yes. And I want to say for those of y'all, I feel like tonight's topic is very it's a lot different than the ones we've had before. And so I know some people have already responded and interacted and shared some stories. So I just want to say first, thank you for sharing, because it's very vulnerable to talk about these types of things when it comes to our lowest points or what we deem as our lowest points in our lives. And so I just want to first just say thank you to those who have shared some of their stories, and thank you to those who will share during the session, because this is
Yes, I'll manifest that.
yes, and this is a safe space to have these conversations because they are super important and they
Absolutely.
help to catapult us to our next part of our where we're going. So
Absolutely. Yes, we have shared vulnerability here. We're going to share our stories. It's a story swap. And we really, really, really want to hear what you have to say and what your experiences are, because again, we are the guides. You may have something you can teach us. We value perspectives. So please jump in the conversation. We're going to be asking some questions. Make sure that you give your feedback. Let me hear everything that you have survived, because we also want to make sure we celebrate you. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with some quick reflection questions. Again, if you are here, please make sure that you share your experiences. All
hi,
right.
Jen. We had some visitors come in.
I know. I'm all excited, like, oh, shoot, hey, y'all. All right. So the first question for you guys and for us, what is the bottom for you? What do you define as or what have you defined, or maybe something you've been through, or what you would define as your lowest point in life, right? because we are talking about ground zero growth. So we are talking about ground zero, the lowest, where you feel like it just cannot, it's just, it can't get any worse. This
And
is it.
no worse where we at now. This is it.
Absolutely. So if you have experienced the bottom in your life, what are some ways you had to work from the bottom? Did it change you? And how did it change you? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to go ahead. You can elaborate on that. I'm going to type this in here so people can know what the question is.
Yeah. So I think for me, I mean, first of all, we can open up to everyone, but I think for me, I always look at my bottom as layers, right? Because there's always layers of circumstances that really contribute to your bottom, your full bottom. So for me, the bottom was a layered aspect for me. So I had so many different challenges from, I want to say, from maybe my teenage years to like through my 20s, early 20s, whatever the case is. But I feel like my bottom really comes from or came from my relationships in my adulthood, the choosing what those things were for me. And so I think I had to deal, and I don't know if this is, I'm like, are we getting into our story time?
Yeah.
I'm like, because I don't want to take up the time, but
do what you do.
But here we go, because I'm hyperverbal like that. So here we go. So I feel like for me, my bottom comes in layers, right? So I think being in two different relationships that both had levels of abuse centered around it were my bottoms. So I think my first like emotional abusive relationship was probably my first layer of my bottom, right? Because I was dealing with this for years and I had no idea that it was just like, if this is normal, if this is the relationship woe of things. It was very passive aggressive and very hard to navigate. And as a new mom, I was trying to figure out, is this the ups and downs that people talk about? Is this the normal in a relationship? And so I went through it for years. I did therapy. I did all the things that you're supposed to do. And I was forced to make a decision. Do I stay in the chaotic comfort, right? Because it's chaos, but it's my comfort. Or do I leave in the pursuit of peace, right? And so I opted for the pursuit of peace. But opting in that pursuit of peace also meant that there was a lot of uncertainty that came with that. It was not peaceful in the beginning, right? Because I did not know what was what. And so I remember for me, it was always different because my professional life was always booming, but my personal life was the one that was never really in line. Right. So I remember I had to stay at a shelter for a number of months. And I was like, and it was crazy. I had to now tell my boss that I have a curfew. Like I have a curfew that's earlier than my work hours. Okay. So now there's an integration that's happening. So I can't keep it a secret. I have to share. And then also my son couldn't be with me. So I had to figure out how I was going to navigate that space. And so I recall having to literally walk and let me tell y'all, the shelter I was staying in, it was like incognito. So it was like hidden in plain sight. So I did not have a car at the time. And I had to literally walk like 30 minutes to see my son where he was in the morning for like 10 minutes. Okay. So I had to walk 10 minutes. These are past streets that I wouldn't even drive down. Okay. Right. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go visit my son before I go to work. Now my son is sleeping because of course it's like 5 a.m. I got to be to work by 8. So I got to go. So I had to walk this 30-minute walk for a 10-minute visit for my son, just so I could see him because he's not. And then I go to work, okay? And then I had to and then I had to explain to my director, hey, this is my new modification of my schedule that I'm telling you I have because this is my life situation right now. And literally that was the process for months. And then I was like, this is different. Like I can't do this anymore. I'm starting to build myself back up and 4 years go by, and I'm like trying, that was my life for those 4 years. And it was a stressful struggle, but I was finding my way.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4 years later, I found myself in a very similar situation. And I was like, wow, like what is this? So I went from this emotional abusive relationship that I could not withstand to now I'm in the physical abusive relationship 4 years later. Again, this one was rough. And I always say, like, I'm never going to tell no one about my past because I feel like they up the ante every time. Like, bad to worse. So I was dealing with this person, and this person was an alcoholic. So it made it worse because it was always exacerbated.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point, I'm 2 kids in, right? And so I'm like, dang, like I'm back to facing the same situation. Do I deal with this chaotic comfort, or do I deal with the pursuit of peace?
Mm-hmm.
And at this point in my life, I remember I was like, again, my professional life excelling through the roof. Okay. Yep. But there's this integration, and I never forget, like we had a system. It got so bad that we had a system. It was the red, yellow, green system with my son. I used to tell my daughter was too little. So, but what we would do is we would assess the situation before I got there. So the red was like, we can't stay there. It's bad. The yellow was like, maybe the cops won't be called, maybe it's give or take. And then the green was like, the cops are not going to be called. That's how we assessed it. And so it's one of those things that we had. And it was so, like, looking back, I'm like, dang, how did I do that? But we needed to really assess if it was safe enough for us to stay that night. So I remember one time it was a yellow situation, and I was just like, it was a red situation. I said, I'm going to go to my mom's and, sleep it off. And then I'll go to work the next morning when things cool down. Mm-hmm. So I go to my mom's the next morning. I go to the house, and the door is bolted shut. Jesus. So I couldn't change my I had clothes from the previous day, and I had to go to work. Life still had to go on, right? Kids had to go to school. So I'm like, what the heck? So I'm like, are you kidding me? So I had to. So I called my coworker, who I was not close to at the time, and I was just like, oh, I gotta how I tell her, So I'm like, hey. It's like 5-6 o'clock in the morning. Can you go to Target and get me a dress? Like, can you get me a dress? And she's like, oh yeah, what's going on? I'm like, I'm locked out of the house. I need a dress. Mm-hmm. She goes to get me a dress. I'm like, meet me in the bathroom. She meets me in the bathroom. I get changed, cry a little bit, get myself together, and I go out to work, and I have a normal, hey y'all, morning, like nothing.
Yeah, masking, man.
And so it was horrible, and I was thinking, like, this is crazy, because the thing is, at the time I was working also in a transit company. So if you're working for transit, one of the things you have to understand is like, you have to be careful about what you share. Mm-hmm. Not just because people in transit like to talk, but because that T stands for talk. But also, listen, you tell them one thing, by the end of that conversation, the whole organization know everything and got more intel than you. So it was just like, I can't share this stuff because there's an obligation to the people that I share, because they're technically mandated reporters. So you could have a best friend that's an inspector, but you tell the inspector something that's going on, God forbid happens, it operates in a militant manner. So it's like, you have to be mindful of dragging people into your stuff because it affects other people's livelihoods. So I was very, very secretive about everything, because it was like, I have to think about this person or that person. And I ultimately ended up choosing that pursuit of peace, and found myself yet again homeless. Great job, but I couldn't share, I couldn't vent, I couldn't do any of the things. So it was just like, I need to make a change, and I need to figure it out. And I think having my children witness and be a part of my change was the catalyst, because it was like, I can't teach them that this is normal, and I can't allow them to see and perpetuate something, one, because, it could get so bad, the worst could happen, right? And so there's that. And then the other piece is like, I have an ability to change the situation. I have an ability to walk away from it. It's not going to be comfortable, but it was at that point where it was like, it can't get no worse at this point. Like,
Yeah.
I can't do this. And so I ended up leaving, and it was really one of the best decisions that I had. And I don't change anything. I would not change anything thinking back, because it allowed me to take one for the team, as I always say, because now I can show people and help other people, other women. If you're not sure, you're like, I don't know how, honey.
I've
I'm
been
living
there.
proof. Been
Yeah.
there, ain't gonna wear it, but I show you what to do. Because it's a lot. It's a real lot. So that those are my two prominent layers of my story, that contribute to my many layers, but those are the two most prevalent.
Yeah, I feel like I'm with you too. Like I've had multiple levels of bottom, and it's like you feel like, oh, it couldn't be worse. And it's like it's almost like the universe is like, word. It's like,
Right.
it's like,
Right.
so you're like, wait, I was playing. You know what I mean? So
That I heard
and
that.
yeah, it's like you're tested over and over again, and you think like,
Yes.
okay, I've survived this abuse, and it's like, oh, but have you seen this
Yes.
one? And it's like, oh, okay, and it's like everything will stay the same until you are no longer the same, right? And then
Right.
when you make that conscious decision that not only am I, because sometimes we just decide that we want better, but we don't do the internal work to sustain
Plus.
better, right?
Mhm.
And it's like once you make that decision, and it's like, you get tested over and over and over again, and you have to just mask your way through it, and it sucks.
It does. It does.
It sucks, and it feels it's still it's just I feel like masking is more painful than the experiences sometimes,
Absolutely.
because it's like you put so much work trying to pretend, that you're okay. But yeah, so Naomi had made a comment, and she said, I feel like I was more present at the bottom. I was literally counting minutes during the day and saying, okay, I just have to do 60 more time to make an hour, then a few more into hours into bed, then I'll make it to tomorrow. Oh, child, I feel that's so much more.
Yes. Oh my God.
I have been there more times than I would like to admit, where it's like, where you just look forward to going to sleep.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, and everyone sees your drain. It's like you're so light, like you don't even know that you're in a cycle of rinse and repeat. Sometimes I felt like I was there, but I wasn't there. And
Yeah.
it's weird because I had these dualities, like, okay, it's on time. And then it was like, okay, as soon as that was off, it's like, okay, whew, now, now I could deal with the abyss of the other stuff. It's just it's crazy.
Yeah. And as Jordan said, it's always something. It is.
Uh,
It really, really is. And if it, and I try to not say that to myself, but it's like and then Garvey said, just when I think it couldn't go any lower, the universe said, but wait, there's more, and then wonder why I'm so exhausted about it. Listen, it's like watch this.
Right, exactly.
And you try to find, the
yet.
silver lining, and it's like, okay, the silver lining is not silver lining, and something needs to happen. And then Mika said, her bottom is not having the energy to work or be creative, not knowing who I am, not knowing where to start, settling for less, getting older and still in the same spot mentally and physically, same shit, different day. I didn't have my parents or any role models in my life to look up to for guidance, and I grew up in a group home for teen moms and had to learn my own way. Well, Mika, as somebody who knows you personally, you are doing the damn thing considering. Okay. Listen, big ups to you, because you have to realize how amazing that is. Like, she's doing big things. Business owner, married, got a successful kids. One of her sons is a traveling DJ. Like,
nice. Okay. I think one of the things,
daughter in college, all of that.
That's amazing. And I think one of the things that we kind of take for granted and that we don't realize when we're at the bottom is that you have a chance to recreate your canvas.
Absolutely.
It's like that's ground zero is actually really like level zero to me. It's like level up. That's your first stepping stone. So you could either look at it as the world is crumbling down, or now I'm rebuilding up. And that was what helped me, not in the process, because let me tell you, it was a real messy process.
Yeah, you don't see it in
like, don't tell me the highest good. I'm not intuitively charged So we're not talking about that. I don't know how this is my highest good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, about to lose my mind. So, but I think looking back, it's like one of those things that's it really is our superpower. Our pains are our superpowers because they allow us that space to be able to say, okay, I lived. Not only did I go through it, I lived through it. I walked through it. I went through it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I went through the other side of it. So I know already what my capabilities are. Now I know what I can get. I can do. I
Yeah.
can do this shit. So now I can actually move and do other things. And now I can recreate a life that I want. And I think that is like the best way to look at it when it comes to things that were thrown at you that you really was not prepared for.
Yeah, and that's where the power is where you realize that you author all of it, and it's hard to see at the time because you feel like life is happening to you so much.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard to see the silver lining. So I feel like the best thing to do is just not worry about seeing where the silver lining is and just being present and processing what's going on. And then knowing that, I have control of the situation. Even when the world tells me I don't, I still always have control. And like Naomi said, just focusing on the minutes. And the just to get through, even if it's minute by minute, like, okay, I got this minute, then the next minute, then the next minute. It doesn't matter as long as you get through it, whatever the method. And it's like people get so caught up in one particular method, and it's like there's so many ways to do this. But Carmen said I've had multiple levels of low as well. Like I couldn't get through one thing before another one was in my face. Masking has become my coping mechanism. Absolutely, and I think that is a very good intro to my story because. Chad, I'm probably gonna clutch some pearls with mine because I mask so well, right? So my lowest point, well, I've had levels too. I've had multiple lowest point. I grew up in a household where, homelessness was, a thing, I've dealt with abuse. I had an abusive ex-husband. He was emotionally and physically abusive, all of that. And yes, that was a low as well. However, I feel like in that time it didn't feel like as much of a low because even though like Mika said that you don't know who you are, like you said, the chaotic comfort, there is chaotic comfort in not knowing who you are because you're oblivious of what you're truly feeling. I was talking to Kaimi about that earlier, actually, about how the more self-aware you are, the harder things hit. You feel things on such a deep level. So it's like, even though the circumstances, and I don't even want to say the circumstances are worse, but I feel like I felt it more in this season than I did when I was in my abusive marriage. So that's why I'm choosing this over that. But mine was 2019. 2019 was, I want to say, it was the best, worst year of my life, right? So I got out of the military at that time, and at the beginning of 2019, and I didn't know, as many know with my story, I was in a 14-year career in the military, in the Air Force, and I decided I was just ready to go, right? I didn't have any concrete reason other than this ain't it, and I don't want to do that, right? And so I kind of got out, and I kind of just jumped into full-time entrepreneurship. I tried to do the job thing, couldn't do it. I went to one interview, and I was like, you know what, I can't do this, and I was done, right? So there was no plan, no nothing, no self-awareness, or there was self-awareness, but it was loading, right? I had enough self-awareness to know this is not what I want, but I didn't have the coping mechanisms and all the fancy things, that I have now. So it was just a hard process because I was so confused because I was turning to this person that I didn't recognize, right? And I'm like, who is this person that just decided she wanted to leave a stable career and just go, and it didn't go anywhere past go, because I was doing business. They were like, oh, just be a full-time business owner. But to be perfectly honest, I didn't know anything about business, but people were telling me, oh, you can just do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, but I don't know how to do that, And so I was just kind of lost. But when I went through that process, I didn't have a plan. My ex now ex, he was not that supportive of my decision. So it was like, I guess that was his get back at the time to be like, well, I'm not going to help you out as much as you need because, you made that decision, right? He didn't say it that way, but that's what I got from it, because he had all the excuses in the world why, I couldn't stay with him, things like that, whatever. So I ended up having to move in, and it's funny, I had to move in with the office. So I had a friend that I stayed with. I'd known her for 2 weeks, right? And I ended up having to move in with her, which was, in a stage where you're living life and you don't like asking for help, that's hard to ask a perfect stranger for help, in a situation where it's not something small. I'm not asking for a cup of sugar. I'm asking to stay in your home, right? So me and my daughter, we went to her home, and then, that was hard enough. We were going through all of those things. And then, I was figuring out, making my way. I didn't know what I was doing. I was starting one business and I was working another. Luckily, through my natural, habits of business, things were picking up, and I was like, "Whoa, what is this? I don't know what's going on." It was a lot of good happening. That's why I say that's my best and worst, because there was a lot of good happening. I was throwing events. I was doing events for other people, but I was just going through emotional turmoil. I had, like, all the money that I had, I wasn't pricing right. So I was working, but I wasn't profiting. Right. So I honestly, if you ask me today how in the world I made it through that, I really don't know. I just don't. I wasn't on any kind of assistance, didn't have any disability money coming through. Like, I was surviving off of whatever I made, right? So I was doing DoorDash and Uber Eats and all these different things. And that enough was hard because it just got to the point where I was in a blur. And then I'm in a stranger's home that I did not know. Right. So then, fast forward to the middle of the year, there was a point in time, around my birthday time, there was a time where I was sexually assaulted. And then at that time, he was trying to do it to my daughter, and I had to literally fight him off. Okay. So that, at the time, I wasn't fully processing my feelings. And the worst part about is it happened with somebody that I trusted, right? Somebody that I had met when I got here, that the first person I trusted here. So there was a lot to process at that time, because it's like, oh, wow. So, because she didn't believe me. She said, even though I came in there, she saw me literally fighting this man. And she just thought it was always, oh, you're drunk, right? And and we're talking about masking, right? And because the way that it happened, it wasn't, me just being whatever. It was like, they said, oh, go lay down. And then it's like, whatever happened. So fast forward, like 2 weeks later. So remember, I said I was doing events. When we're talking about masking, I was doing an event. And then 2 weeks after that, like, I had an event, a big event that I do every year. I used to do every year as a bar crawl, right? And the people who were near, I didn't know what to do, is how to process that situation. I didn't know if I wanted to go to the hospital, the cops, not the hospital, but the cops, and file charges, because he was in the military, and you know how that goes. He was an officer, and it already is terrible as it is. But then when you understand, like, in a military aspect, nothing's going to happen, and all that's going to happen is more of the punishment is going to be on you than him, right? But then, due to encouragement of friends, I went and I reported it. But exactly what I didn't want to happen happened. They turned it into a CPS case for me, and I had to basically fight to keep my daughter. Like, so I was assaulted, and then literally that following week, I had to fight to keep my child, due to something that somebody else did. And I was like, wow, so that was another slap in the face. Right. So then at that time, I had a best friend. She was my best friend for 15 years. And she kind of turned her back on me. Like, it was weird. And then at that time, my boyfriend at the time, he turned his back on me too, because he was like, it was just like a lot of people were just looking at me crazy. And like my best friend, I had to cut her off. So now I'm grieving sexual assault. Now I'm grieving loss of a best friend. Now I'm grieving this new transition in my life. Now I'm grieving, my daughter's situation. And what am I going to do? I'm probably going to lose my kid. And then like literally 1 week before my event, I was like, bro, I just remember just laying on the floor and just crying, because I'm like, my life has taken such a turn. Like, what is happening? Like, how did I go from being in the Air Force, having a stable career, to this, to laying in the fetal position on the floor? How did we get here, right? And so I knew I had my event coming up, and I was like, I really, again, and this is a lesson to everybody, here's how deep my people-pleasing skills were. I had an event that next week, a big event that required a lot of my energy, and all I cared about is I don't want to disappoint the people who invested money to come. Right. That's all I cared about. I was like, forget what I'm feeling. It doesn't matter. You're going to have to shake it off, and you're going to have to show up. And I shook it off. I showed up, and luckily I had a friend, one of my guy friends. I told him because one day he just asked me like, "What's wrong?" And if somebody asks you what's wrong, it's like, So I told him what happened, and luckily he was there.
Get started.
Yeah, and then luckily he was there to help me with the event. So we went and did the event. I'm partying and everything. No one knew at that time what happened like a week and some change prior. And I'm partying, just living. Luckily, he took a lot of the energy off of me so where I could just kind of be, but it was just a lot, right? And so, like I said, in that year, I dealt with that. And I dealt with, I was dealing with my daughter's case. I was dealing with that. And then word got around to my child's father and he was abusive. So of course he kept telling me I need to just, unalive myself and I'm this and that. So I'm dealing with that, loss of a best friend, no place to go, car broke down. Like I was just like, okay. So this is what, and to go from that, then guess what happened directly after? Freaking COVID. So I'm sitting here and I'm like, right when I felt okay, then I hear this little thing about a little pandemic and I'm like, okay, well, hopefully they chill because I need all these events to make this money back. And then we all know what happened with that. Then it got to the point where I had no car, no home to live in, still dealing with sexual assault, still dealing with abuse from her dad, had to fight to keep my kid. I still had to keep working because again, I'm full-time entrepreneur thrown into, so I didn't have no grace to take PTO. I didn't have any of that. I had to just keep freaking going. And it was a lot, and I felt like my life was never, ever, ever. I was questioning everything about myself. Like, all the decisions I made. Am I even fit to be a mom? Like it was just a whole bunch.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. That's crazy. That's crazy. And it's no surprise that there's a lot of similarities.
Of course.
That happened to me too. But no surprise there. But it's one of those things that is crazy because when you're in that fight or flight mode, you don't have time to process. I remember we didn't have a car and I don't know, my kids, sometimes I wonder if they bullying or motivate me because it was like, why you don't have a car? And it was like, hello, I love it. Like I had one at one point.
Right.
Because we had cabs on standby. They was like, oh, just one today. Like they knew my kid's schedule and everything. And I remember I was working for Lyft or Uber. Because at the time you could rent a car through them, and every month you would change cars. And so I remember we went from not having a car to now every month we got a new car because you had to go back and get it adjusted or whatever. And my son kept saying, Mommy, so now are we rich because you get new cars every month? Yeah. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, just speak that into existence. I don't know what's going on. Because you just do, and I had a job, but I needed the car to get to and from work. My thing was like, I'm not doing this train thing every time. I got to go to a daycare, a school, and work, and they're not the same places. Like, I spend my whole check on transportation. It's insane.
Yeah, we do live similar lives because I was renting a car for 2 years, girl.
God, it was.
I just got a car last year. Man. No one knew.
No one knew. No one knew what was going on. The same type of situation is so bizarre. Like, and even that the story you shared about the assault that happened to me, not even process it. It took me 4 years. It took me 4 years to realize that, I was assaulted. Oh, that's what that was. I was dating. And because of somebody who I was close to, I still was confused. And it's like, your subconscious is very tricky when it comes to things like that and really hiding and masking because you do your own emotional masking, but then your mental also contributes to the mask of like what's what and what happened and what didn't happen. So, girl,
yeah. And so when we're talking about the different levels of the bottom, do you feel, and this is a question for you guys too.
Yes.
When we're talking, because we talked in a lot of these discussions about the bottom and how there's different levels to it. So with that being said, do you feel the bottom is subjective? Do you feel it truly exists, or does it depend on your needs, desires, and circumstances at that time? So we want to hear from you as well, because when we were talking about this show and we were talking about the bottom, and it made me think like, we have, like, I could say I'm at my worst right now, right? And then, like we said, the universe is like, watch this, right? And then we have a new level, and it's like, okay, so is this my worst? Like, is there truly the worst, or is it a situation where it's just based on what you perceive at that time? Because my goals and desires are different now. So if something happens, it's going to hit a lot different than it would have years ago.
Right.
Yeah. So I feel like with the bottom, it's essentially subjective, but whatever you define it as, that's what it is, right? But let's go into the way you can get from it, because as you already know, y'all, that we clearly are not there anymore. We have come a very long way, as you can see, as we are both in our respective homes.
Right.
So now it's time to talk about how we did it, and then also to help you guys out if you feel like you are at the bottom in your life.
So someone said the bottom I'm currently at is new for this place in my life. Okay.
Yes, that's real.
Yeah. I think so. For me, if I were to if the bottom exists, right? Just going back to that, because I think it's a segue in determining how you actually move from it.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does exist to an extent, right? Because this is why everyone's bottom's different. And this is why some people don't realize what contributes to the bottom versus just being in the bottom layer, right? You could be in the bottom space, but what is that breaking point bottom, right? And there's differences. And I feel like, it really is determined by your willingness to change the circumstance that you're in, whatever that is. It's honestly like just taking a deep assessment to say, okay, this is where I'm at, and either I like it, so I can stay, or if I don't. And then you make those tangible actions, starting with what you can do, how you can get there, to say, okay, this is what I don't want, and this is how I'm going to make the move. And that move could be the very first thing, could literally just be your mindset shift. It could be cutting people off. It could be, it doesn't have to be that drastic thing. So I feel like it does depend on your desire, your circumstances, what you want, because you want different things at different layers and different levels of your worlds. People who his bottom is, oh, I'm broken, I don't have money. The tangible thing would be to try to apply yourself to get a job to get you out of that. And then there are some people who just want peace. And so that peace may look different. It may look like, I'm going to leave everything I know on the pursuit of whatever the hell this peace is that I don't have, because I know what I got here. And if it's not aligning, then I gotta go. So I think it really does depend on it. And I think there's a quote that Humble the Poet always says is like, failure is the path that leads to success, right? And I think that is like the quintessential thing for when it comes to being at your bottom, because you think there's so many failures, but those failures are actually those building blocks and those pebbles or those breadcrumbs of, oh, follow this way. Because you have to have a drastic change to know what's not working. Otherwise, you still stay going around and around in that same cycle. So, I think it does exist, but it depends on where you are in that.
Yeah, I agree. And it depends on where you are in life. And like you said, with the mindset and what you actually feel. And then I feel like where we all mess up, especially earlier in the journey of what are you going to call it, is that we don't have the self-awareness to know what we want for real. You know what I mean? It's like when you can say, okay, I want peace, but do you know what the peace is that you want? Do you know what it looks like? And I feel like a lot of times we want things, and it's like, do you know what it looks like if you were to have it? Because, for example, I'll use my now ex-best friend, for example. I was so stuck on the fact that I was losing a friend, right? And I kept saying, I just want peace, I want peace, I want peace, not realizing that her leaving was my peace.
Yeah.
And at that time, I wasn't looking at that like that way. I'm like, but I lost a friend. And I was so focused on the loss. But I just want peace. I just want peace. And then the universe is like, but I'm giving you that.
Right. Yeah.
Here you go. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. And it's like, no, I want peace. I want peace. And it's like, okay, but I'm giving you peace. But it's like we get so caught up in things looking a certain way that we don't truly attach to the actual thing that we want. And we say, oh, I want peace in the form of blah, blah, blah. And you get presented with another form of peace that doesn't look that way, but it still results in, eventual, it results in peace along the line. And it's like, we're just so stuck on the now. It doesn't feel good now. So it's like, well, everything's falling apart now. And it's like, sometimes you have to take a step back and trust yourself, trust the process, and trust that everything is eventually going to lead to exactly what you're asking for. All you have to do is be extremely clear as you can, because fight or flight is real, about what you're asking for. Yes. Okay, I want peace. And you have to kind of release and say, I'm open to whatever that looks like. I'm open to whatever it presents itself as, at the time, as long as my result is peace. Because we get so caught up in, oh, this is unfavorable, this isn't desirable, this isn't helpful. And it's like, things aren't working. And it's like, or, you have to shift that narrative and say, things are always working. Everything works for my good. And I just don't understand what that good looks like right now. But you just have to kind of just release a little bit, because, as me and you are kindred spirits, we like to micromanage our chaos, right? And we like to say, I want it to look like this, and this should feel like this. And if my results become better, they need to look like this.
Yes. I think for me, I realized that very early on, because I remember I had 4 years between two spaces of the same thing happening. And so I was like, you know what? What am I doing? My intuition doesn't work. Somebody needs to give me an intuition, because everyone says time heals. I gave 4 years, abstinent for 4 years. I was abstinent too. I was out here in the trenches in the jungle, like, I can't do nothing because I need to be focused for 4 years. And I'm like, okay, but wait, why is this happening again? I don't get it. So I think for me, I remember what I said too. I said, I just want to be with me and my kids. I just want me and my kids. That's it. And I got me and my kids for the next 4 or 5 now. Right. So I was very clear. I didn't want nobody else's stuff. I just want to be. And I literally, me and my journaling, I journaled everything that I wanted. Like, I want this. And I didn't focus on what I didn't want. That's the other thing. Because what I noticed is, when you start saying what you don't want, it shows up. So you have to focus on what you do and what does that look like. And I started envisioning it when my ex-boyfriend was out. When he was out at work or out doing his thing, I was like, this is what I want. This is the moment. And I get more, please. And so I started getting really clear about things early on, and I started realizing, like, this is how you figure it out. But you become more present in those moments, because when you experience something that you haven't had, right, you knew you wanted it, but you didn't know what it felt like because you didn't have a space to have it. You really start to go, okay, well, if this is it, what if I asked for this? What would this feel like? And then it expands. And so I felt like, for me, it was like this, instead of watching the clock of, okay, only 5 more minutes until it's time to go to work, it was like, okay, give me let me see what it'd be like if I just do this, let me see that, you start getting this trust in this relationship with yourself that becomes healthy and not based on any external, okay, just go out and meditate in the park and come to center and do all the things and go to therapy and talk about your problems. And that's fine. Therapy is good. But I'm not therapy. It's a great tool to have. But there are other aspects of learning you and learning what you want and what you love and discovering yourself that you can't get when you are actually giving to so many other people all the time. And I was just tired of giving. And so I got really, really clear. And I was just like, I don't care what has to go, because I feel what I need to have, whatever has to go, it just needs to go. And I had experiences where I did lose friends, and it bothered me a lot, because I'm like, do you know who I am? Like, I'm going to be here for you all the time. Like, what do you mean? What?
I'm so special and wonderful. How could you not want to be my friend?
What?
Felt.
What's wrong with your judgment? So, like, but like you said, it was like, okay, but this is in alignment with the stuff that you were asking for. And so I've learned really quickly in my journey of my pursuit of peace that, girl, you just gonna have to let stuff go and let it go. And it was hard because I was holding on to everything. I was holding on to a car that was bringing me problems. That's how I ended up lifting and Ubering and doing all the things. It was insane. So absolutely, you have to be willing to surrender.
Yes, that surrender is so important.
You have to surrender. And people be thinking that surrender means, oh, just everything's gonna happen and anything's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's not. And I told Nen all the time, my surrender's on fleek now.
Listen, and it's a beautiful place to be, right? And it's like you learn it, and then when you master it, you're like nothing can really penetrate you.
Nothing.
And and I always say that when it comes to the surrendering and releasing, and it's like when you lose something, when you lose your keys, people always say you're gonna find it when you calm down. You're gonna find it when you stop looking. You're gonna find it, and it's like, why do you think that only applies to keys? Like that applies to everything. Everything, when you talk about love and you hear people's love stories, and you're like, how did you meet? And they're like, oh, it's when I thought I would never, I just gave up. And it's like, then he came on a white horse. It's like, so y'all don't see the trend, right? So at that point, you have to release. You have to learn the power of the release. And you also have to learn there is power at the bottom, right? And so as we say here now, tribulations can be your trampoline, right?
Absolutely.
That can be the thing that catapults you up. Tribulations can be a catalyst, but you have to make it that way. It doesn't come that way. It doesn't come ready-made. You have to shift your mindset, and you have to really be intentional about trust. Like Naomi said, she didn't trust her intuition because she said that I didn't trust my intuition after my bottom either. I still double think decisions, but I'm getting better every day, right? Because you focus on all the things you did wrong and all this. And that's where we go wrong, is we focus on, oh, I did this wrong. And because I did X, Y, Z wrong, that's why I'm here. And it's almost far. And you got to realize, look at it like this. Every time you say, and I use the term unhelpful, an unhelpful thought, you're basically taking your chaos shovel and you're digging. So it's like, oh my God, how did I get here? Dig again. Oh my God, I'm so terrible. Dig again. Oh my God, I'm a failure. Dig again. And then next thing you know, you're going to be in a hole so deep that you are going to literally lead a ladder to get out of. And when that ladder is mindset shift. And every single piece of that ladder is you reframing those thoughts. So if you dig deep and you get there and you get the ladder, and the only way to get up is, oh, I'm such a failure. And you reframe that to, I made the best decisions I could at that time. That's one peg. And you got to keep going until you are out. But the thing is, we feel like that once we reframe the mindset and we're out, that's it. No, you have to align it with actions. Because once you're out that hole, now you got to walk. Now you got to do the work.
You got to do the work.
Because people feel like, oh, I just want this magic. They want to, like when I dream of Genie to life, like, boop, it's all done. That's not how
it goes. That's not how it works.
You got a baby step.
Yeah, you have to really sit with yourself. One of the things that helped me tremendously was really sitting with myself. It's because the thing is, we're conditioned all the time about what we're supposed to do, how we're supposed to do it, when it's supposed to happen, what it should look like. And so you start basing your whole lifestyle and your whole premise off of these external expectations and external guidelines that don't align with who you are or what you want. And then because they are so out of the norm for what everyone said you're supposed to do, now you don't want to voice it. Now you don't want to exercise it. Now you don't want to practice in that space. And I remember when I was in these situations with these people and these, my relationships, people say, well, they have a job. Why, like, what's the problem? And it's like, yeah, they have a job, but they're hurting me. They're not helping me. They're not, they're not aligned. They're not doing the things. And you have to look at the place of where people's, advice is coming from sometimes. The generation before me wanted, the having a financial blanket was important. And that was the most important thing. In my world, I always had a job. But now I have men who are abusive and they're emotionally unavailable and they are not emotionally intelligent. And no one's talking about that, right? Because they're the people where that advice was coming from, that wasn't important. And so because you start walking in a space of what's truly what you need, your true authentic needs, not the needs of everybody else, it becomes a different dance. It becomes different decisions. And so this is why sitting with me and figuring out, what do I want? What are the things that I was taught that I need to unlearn? What are the things that I was shown that's not healthy that I've inherited? You know, sitting to do the work, that is the work. That the work is sitting and realizing, oh, these relationships got you codependent. Oh, these relationships got you abandoning things, including yourself. You know, abandonment is not people leaving you. Sometimes it's you leaving yourself. It's you neglecting you. So there's a lot of things that go into doing the work. So you have to understand, like, your tribulations will be and can be your trampoline to your triumph if you allow it and do the work. You know, you have to sit with yourself in those difficult moments, because sometimes we inherit shit that's not ours. I don't know. Can we swear? I'm like, can we swear? Because
yeah, we swear. The hell, this is elevate and relate.
Okay, I don't want to get blips and bleeps and all the things. You know, I'm mad.
No, you're good.
Okay, I'm like, cause you like,
can we swear?
Can we swear? Because I feel like I'm at home. Like I'm on a
call. Girl, no, we at home. We talking to friends. We talking to friends, but we swearing.
Okay. It's got a potty mouth. So yeah, so it's just like you have to really like look at it where your trials become your triumphs if you do the work. So put that trampoline to work to where you want it to go, so that you're not sitting in a space of like, now what? You know, because that's ultimately what you'll be stuck.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and I want to talk about the self-abandonment at right now, because I'm not gonna lie, like self-abandonment is a newish term for me. Like back then, I didn't know nothing about a self-abandonment. If you would have asked me what it was, I could have gave you a very Webster definition and left it at that, right? But I didn't understand what self-abandonment truly freaking was until I did it. Right. Yeah. And it really made me look at how important your awareness is and your environment is, and how much even the little things can really hold you back. Right. No, Eddie, say what you gotta say.
I'm like, please say.
So I don't we hear it authentic selves. Y'all can say whatever you gotta say. As long as you don't get our live shut down, do you? But I'm don't get me say it so I'm not trying to be all like he got me acting ratchet. Okay, back to transmission.
I'm like, look, say what you gotta say so that we not
say what you gotta say. We are here to be open and honest and have real authentic conversations. Okay. So for me, like I said, I didn't realize what self-abandonment was, and I realize now how careful, how it's a very thin line, you know, where you can really abandon yourself. And it's like a flow thing, but then you can get to a point where you completely abandon yourself, where you're over here and your true self is down there. And so I didn't realize, and now, you know, years later, I'm realizing that, damn sis, 14 years in an institution, like reading it for what it is. And this is where this radical honesty comes real handy, right? Where you're like, you spent 14 years embedded in an institution that was created to not allow people like you to thrive. You were told, you know, at that time that you were a failure, that you were dumb, that you were this and that you were that you every stereotype or a stereotypical name under the sun that they could create for a Black woman, they called you that. They intentionally tore you down, right? And it's that radical honesty to really realize what happened, because a lot of times we don't fail per se. I hate using the word fail. I almost vomited when I said it, but we don't, you know, we'll say fail for lack of better terms. We don't fail because we didn't do the right steps. We probably fail because we didn't start at the right starting point. Like, be real with yourself and truly take a true assessment of where you're starting from, because we can't sugarcoat when it's stuff like this. You can't sugarcoat. You do yourself no favors by trying to sugarcoat. It's just the same thing like going to a therapist and lying. You're not helping if you're lying. Tell the truth about what happened so you can know what battles you're actually fighting.
I think that's so important. And I think, you know, for me, my struggle was always this. I feel like I had a decent starting point. However, I felt like it couldn't happen to me.
Oh, that too.
Everything, my pride,
Yeah.
girl, my pride was dipsy. My thing is like, I went to college, I graduated, I did all the things.
You did
Now, some
all the things. Yeah.
men get jobs, they don't got good jobs, they got good
Yeah.
jobs, okay? And it's like I did all this stuff, and then I end up. I remember I had to go to a group. One of the stipulations for being in a shelter was you had to go to a group, and I went to the group, and I was like, I shouldn't even be here, and I said it out loud, like,
Yeah.
I was like, everyone tell your story. What story? I'm here because one poor decision with who I chose, and here I am. This is why I'm here. It was so different, and I was just like, and I had to sit like, because it was so hard for me to just realize, like, why not you? What makes you so grand that life can't happen to you? And so for me, it was like, I don't belong here. And that was my mindset for years, even going through it. And I think that's why I had over a span of 8 years, 2 times of homelessness, because I needed to learn with escalating issues, because I still wasn't navigating the space of, honey, life can happen to you many times over until you learn what you're supposed to learn. So for me, it was just like, what is this? And I needed that humbling. I needed that humility. Now I can look back and say I need it. And now, and I was afraid to always say like, oh, I was homeless. Now I'm like, yeah, listen,
I was homeless.
man, listen. And the other thing, which is so crazy. And my mom thought I was crazy when I told, because she was like, well, how is it? She always talked like it was a dungeon. Like it was so horrible. Like, how is it?
They feed you. They slide you a plate under your door every night.
Yeah, like she was like, what do they do? First of all, I was with nuns, okay, and they made dinner every night, and we prayed together. And I was like, Mommy, I got the best sleep ever. Like that's how kind of sleep I wanted to have, because I was like, I need that kind of. Do you know how restful it was? Like there was like I didn't have the grandest experience every single time, but that particular one, child, I got the best sleep in my life for that time that I was in that particular shelter, and I'm just like so. I just needed to learn the humility within myself, because I was not only abandoning me, but I also put myself on this pedestal that it can't happen to me because I did everything that everyone said you're supposed to do. Got myself in debt and everything for it. Like, look at me, all my college loans. Okay. So it's just like, it can happen to anybody.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, what you want to remember is what I've learned is that while life can happen to you, you can also happen to life. And that's where I'm at now, where I'm like, whatever I want.
Bun, y'all was about to get them bars.
Don't start me. Don't start with me today. Don't start.
Look, that was good. I'm about to write it down, honey. That was good.
No, it's for real. It's for like, man, listen.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that too, where like, because we talked about a constant, a constant in these conversations is talking about how the different levels and how it seems like right when you're done, you're like, okay, well, that's it. And you keep hitting it. And it's like, you think like, okay, and the first thing we think is, am I being punished? Like, am I cursed? And again, it goes back to that radical honesty of no, you could be doing all of the things, right? And you could be doing all of the things and checking all the lists, but you still think you too good for, negative things to happen to you. So maybe you did all the tangibles, but your mindset is trash. Maybe you did all the tangibles and you still are walking in a level and version of yourself that is not aligned to what you're asking for. Maybe your character needs to catch up with your desired circumstances. Maybe it's not necessarily like you're cursed, but it's you are not in alignment. You are not aligning the frequency. You're not your frequency, your mindset, your actions. You have to feel like that's what I always want to tell people. There are levels to this. It's like it's levels to the hard shit, it's levels to the good shit.
Absolutely.
You have to, for the things that you want, you have to be clear about what you want, because you can't move on no iffy stuff. Like you have to know what you want, and you don't have to be crystal clear, but you at least have to know what your intent is, what it is that you want. Like, because we put so much awareness, and like you said, when you talk so much about what you don't want, again, me the subconscious and you the real universe, right? What you're doing is you're putting momentum in the shit you don't want. So the more you keep retelling the stories, the more you keep talking to people about it and rehashing it, and oh my God, I don't want that. That's why I tell people, don't come on social media typing all this shit about who sucks and what, all that negative stuff. You're just putting, like, if you want a good marriage, why are you going online and talking about how men are, or whatever? I don't want to get to it off, or whatever, on Facebook or whatever. Like, if that's what you want, be on that frequency. If a good marriage is what you want, focus on what that good marriage is going to look like. Don't keep hashing back, because whatever you do, and that's what we always have to realize, is that our subconscious mind and the universe, they both work. The beauty of spirituality and brain hacks is because that's why I love spirituality, because it makes sense with how we work as humans. And us as humans, whatever we put in our mind, that's what's going to be our reality. So if you are focusing your awareness on my life is terrible, this is happening, all these negative things, you're giving energy to that. So that's the first thing you got to do, is be mindful of your awareness. Once you are mindful of your awareness, then you can say, okay, well, now you can start, then come the affirmations, because people say that, they get in front of the say affirmation, I am blah, 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 and then turn around and then put awareness in the thing that goes directly against what you just said. Everything has to align. And then at that level, then you have to really feel like you're worthy of it too. Because how many times do we affirm things that we subconsciously feel are not even possible for us? So if you say, I'm going to get there, or we'll see, you're putting doubt in the most. So you have to think of it like creating like a boiling soup or something. And it's like whatever ingredients you're throwing in there. Every time you say, I think, or I may, or we'll see, doubt. It all has to align. So you have to do that. And then the chef's kiss of it all is the action. You have to take the action. You have to really do the things that align with everything that you're asking for, because if you feel you're worthy, right? Because again, we are spiritual beings with human limitations and we live on earth. Don't get so, cocky in what you want and that you're deserving it, that you forget you also live on earth, right? So it's like you have to really, really realize that, okay, I'm worthy of it. Cool. I know that I'm worthy of it. I've been doing all the affirmations. I've been watching my awareness. I cut off the negative people, environments on point. So now I'm gonna just sit here and wait for it to come. No, you have to also act in ways and habits. You have to habit stack. Slowly create habits that build up to that narrative. You can't just sit and feel sorry for yourself. And you also can't just sit and know it's coming. You have to act. You have to realize there's layers to it. Yes.
Feel the feelings, because that's what's going to help you. Your emotions are super tied to all the things that you have coming. And like Nana was saying with the affirmations, those are words. Those are for our mind. Those are not for the universe. Those are not for spirit. That's not for God, whatever divinity you believe in. That's for you to reprogram you, And so you have to be very, very clear about what you're telling yourself and what frequency you're on. But feeling those feelings is going to help you get through the feelings, because it's your superpower.
Yeah.
So.
And we were talking about earlier, you mentioned, I think it was you there, you were talking about unlearning, right? So let's talk about the unlearning part, because that's very important in this stage too, is unlearning what doesn't work for you, because your bottom in actuality is a clean slate. If you lose everything, you have nothing else to lose, right? So it's like, if you feel like you've lost everything, it's terrible, but it's also a clean slate. You get a clean, beautiful slate that you can start over, And so I feel like being at your bottom is like the best time to really reevaluate.
Yes.
What do you like? Oh,
Tawana. She said, y'all not curse me out like this on this Good Thursday.
My bad.
Bo said, stop yelling at me.
Yeah, it's the truth, because we always are so one-dimensional with things, and it's like, it doesn't help that we have so many things that teach us that, like, you hear it all the time with the motivational videos. All you have to do is just start. Okay, motivational speaker, how do I do that?
Listen, my start looks like naps. Okay, let me tell
Yeah.
you. I would start with a nap. I would end with a nap. I need naps. Listen.
Because how many to-do lists do we make, right? Because in our full ADHD glory, when we're ready to we have those moments in those spurts, we want to get our life together. What we do, we either make a list or we're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. We get caught in a vision with no execution.
I'm telling you, yeah. It's insane. And then you make so many lists you don't follow them, right? Because you don't look at it, and you look at it many times. Okay, where do I start? Because I look at this list. Those days are over for me. I don't know. I don't know. Nana knows I'm in this weird space, and now y'all will know too. I'm in this
she's in surrender.
Like, I don't know what this is. I'm like, I don't know what this new surrender is, but I'm gonna tell y'all about it real quick, like 5 seconds.
Yeah, please. We need to hear about the surrender.
It's bomb.
Highly recommend.
It's bomb. Okay. Because let me tell you, I don't be knowing. I'd be like, what does the wind say? Okay, that's what we're doing today. Like, it's just different. It's different. But yes, make tangible actions. Also have passive action. And that's the one that I love with my naps. Yeah. Passive action is when it seems like you're not doing anything. However, you are doing something in rest. Resting is doing. But it's passive action. Passive action allows you to be still enough so you can actually hear a message from within. You can actually sit with yourself. When I tell people to sit with themselves, this is what I mean. Sit. Don't be on the TV, vegging out to this. Don't be Googling. I'm talking to you, Nana. Don't be.
You see my
Listen, feel like this is a channel message. Don't be. Passive action is literally sitting to hear what you're going to say. It's what does that inner child, what does that shadow need? What does she need? What does he need? What is that is doing, baby. So figure it out, because otherwise you're going to go and read something. Then something going to stimulate you about what you're supposed to be doing. And now your mind is like, well, that's why I had the missing. This is what I should have been doing. And you're still not hearing you. You was like, hey, hi, I'm trying to talk to you. And it's a whisper, but you got all these things going, you can't hear it.
Now we're witnessing a live read.
I'm sorry.
She is channeling my she's in full woo-woo, guys. This ain't for y'all. Y'all just hearing us saying
like resting is doing you. I have received some of the best. The reason why Bars McGee is in the house is because I get most of the stuff from passively acting. It's like, oh, that's so smart. How did you think of that? And it just comes out because you have to sit with yourself to truly understand what it is that I'm missing. Am I missing anything? Maybe I'm not missing anything at all, and I just haven't nurtured it enough. That's why I don't see it. Maybe that seed, I planted it, but I didn't water it. So it's still there, but it's not growing because I'm not nurturing that. So I think a lot of it is just really sitting with you, understanding yourself and listening, being open to hear what you have to say, that inner you, that inner critic, because when the inner critic speaks to us, we have to have the power to speak back to it. Not on Facebook, not on social media, not on TikTok, not on what the latest doctor, whatever, because they didn't walk in my shoes. So they don't truly know how I'm truly feeling. That's
this got real personal.
I'm just saying, because I'm gonna wrap this little quick mini go reading. I don't know what the heck this was, but somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs to hear it. But
anywho,
sit with you.
We're gonna go to Tawana's comment. She said creating SMART goals has really helped me start, because baby, these lists definitely can be overwhelming. Yes, for the passive actions as well. Absolutely, because I feel like lists are like it's like a soothing mechanism. Like it's the way we soothe. Yeah. Naomi, please don't co-sign. We don't need this. We really. I need y'all to focus. Okay.
Okay, let's regroup. We're regrouping.
We're regrouping.
Okay.
But yes. So let me defend myself. And
listen,
she can go sit down too.
Whatever.
Let's go to other comments. Jordan said resting. Anywho, we're gonna ignore that too. I'm only doing it to be fair, but we're gonna ignore that comment too. Anywho, this isn't about me. So okay.
Oh God.
Well, I was going to say, I do strategic surrender, right? Because my life only allows a certain level of surrender. Now, I will be honest and transparent and say that I do have an issue with social media. However, I am also in surrender, but I am in surrender in a different time of my life. Okay.
No.
Yes.
By strategic means control.
I have things I have to do, right, to get where I need to get. Okay.
Go ahead, boo.
Okay. So, but I am, and Kylie, since you want to co-sign, go ahead and co-sign the surrender and how I've been just good with life happening as it should. So give me my half credit. Anywho,
you're doing a great job. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But so that's another thing. So let me use this impromptu channel. You just said. Tommy,
you know, I'm gonna get off. Like, what was that?
Tommy, go ahead and log off. Just go ahead and log off. Anywho, let me go back. Okay, so use this as a good example of what I'm about to say. Okay. All right, so healing is not linear, right? The process is not linear. Your process is not perfect. Your process is not going to look like the processes that you do at work. It's going to be something that is going to be interchangeable based on the circumstances that you are in. Do not get so caught up in the process looking a certain way, right? For me, that's what I have to do to not take what she is saying to me personal, because I understand that I still have a way to go, just like she has her own ways to go. We all do, right? So It's like I could, say no, but I'm doing the work and just leave it at that, right? But another part of the surrender is being open-minded, right? And knowing that you can listen to perspectives and you have the ability to say this works and this doesn't, right? Don't get so caught up in things being one way. That's a part of the unlearning. You have to, yes, unlearning is cool, but unless you are open and being okay, another part of the surrender is knowing the power of not knowing. Not to say, I don't know shit, and mean it, and it feel good, because it's like, I know that whatever knowledge that I need is going to come to me. I know that whatever, clarification that I need is going to come to me. I am good with whatever intent I set right now. I am good with whatever process I'm working right now. I am good with who I am right now, because the real flex is when because we focus so much at the end goal. We got to get here. We got to be healed. I hate the word healed. There's no duh. Healing is forever, right? And we focus on, we got to get out of this situation. I got to get out of this. But the real flex, because why time is not promised. You can sit here and have all the intentions to reach a certain level, and the universe may not see it fit to get you to that year that you say, oh, I'm gonna have it all together by 2026. What if you don't make it in 2026? What are you comfortable with at this time right now? Be comfortable with where you're at right now. And it's something you gotta learn. It's hard. It's hell.
It is hard. It is hard. And you have to really, first of all, let me just say, my message was not for you, Nana, but
I was triggered.
But because I know you personally.
Even though you kind of did say it was for me, but go off.
Initially, yes. And then I don't know what happened after that, because I was really, in my mind, that was but we all
stuck to everybody.
Yeah, but we all do it though. We all do it. We always go there. And one of the things I always say to you all the time is, it's your process. So you're like, well, I need to do better with it. It's your process.
It's the process.
My process looks crazy to everybody else, including myself, but it's my process. Including me. I'm like, what are we doing we're doing that. It's my process. And that's been my new saying lately, because I have to give myself permission to abide by that process. Because if not, then I resist it and I miss what I'm supposed to get during the process. So you have to really honor that. And it comes in layers and levels of, okay, this is where I'm at today. And it doesn't require an explanation. Sometimes you don't need to know why. Why am I so? Why not? Just be. And that's the other part of surrendering, is just being in the moment. This is what I'm feeling. This is how I'm feeling. And then being okay with operating within that space.
Yeah.
So,
And that's hard. We're not going to sit here and sugarcoat it. It's extremely hard. Like I said, even when you're in chaos, you want to micromanage the chaos. You want to micromanage. And then another thing that I also want to bring up, I am someone who is a recovering perfectionist, right? I had to have things a certain way. Everything had to be a certain way. And I, through healing, and shadow work and therapy, like it was a whole 3-tier process. I realized that the root cause of all of it is I felt like I was not worthy of flaws. Like I didn't have space to be flawed. I didn't have time to be flawed. I had to be on point. I had things to check off my list. I had people depending on me. I had like all those things that we tell ourselves, especially if we have a family that is, on you or whatever, you feel like you don't have the space to do it. So Mika said my process will take longer or keep changing because I'm married, and it becomes so complicated because it's not just me when I want it to be.
oh,
Absolutely.
yeah,
That's a thing. And it's
that's a big thing.
a big
Like,
thing.
yes, yes. I navigate this. I'm not married yet, but
Yes.
I share myself with my fiance, and you know, it can be challenging. I'm not
Mhm.
gonna lie. Like, I'm not gonna lie. But you know what I have found? I have found that taking a minute to breathe through it actually helps through things. I've really taken a liking to breath work, and I do a lot of it because it helps calm me in that space. And I always just like breath work. That's just so like, come on now. But I actually listen. My kids say something to me. My fiance say something to me. I'm like, I'm just gonna
Mhm.
breathe through this, and then I'm gonna respond. Like, because sometimes it's difficult when you're absorbing other people's energies and what they're going through too,
Mhm.
and that plays a big part in where you're at. But I always say that just because an energy is presented to you doesn't mean you have to absorb it. And so being very clear on what's yours to absorb and what you choose, you can witness a lot of things. Even when you're in that space of like, I see what's going on, but I'm not gonna engage in this way. Witnessing is also something that is really big with me right now. Is I witness without engaging necessarily because I don't want to absorb everything that's brought to me. So that's and it takes time, it's practice. All of these things it takes practice. The same
Mhm.
way it does with you learning a new skill at work, you learning a new whatever newness that you have.
Mhm.
Your process is also going to be new too. You have to give yourself that space of grace to learn it because it gets better with time. It's a muscle that you learn to flex.
Yep. And I agree. I agree wholeheartedly with that. And then it also, for me, I just want to add also understanding, we were talking about earlier about your starting point and understanding your starting point and having that radical honesty to say, this is where I'm at. And not necessarily, like she said, just acknowledge it and say, these are the things, like be very clear, about it. And then to be clear about who's around you. Right. And you say, okay, these are the things that I am dealing with. This is how I'm going to have to navigate. You just identify it like as an obstacle. I don't hate to use the word obstacle, but identify it as something that you're going to have to kind of navigate around. It's not necessarily, it's never a barrier. No one can block you from you, right? It's never a barrier. It's just something you have to navigate. And the biggest thing is really understanding that it is something that you have to navigate because I'm not married, but a lot of my growth happened while I was in a relationship. And then now I'm a single mom. Like I have no help, it's just me and her, so it's hard. And that's why even when I was saying like with my process is, different because I have a daughter that I'm raising by myself, that she's 15. And when she was younger it was easier, but now she has things, she has a job, she has all these things. So I don't have a lot of time to just be like, okay, but I could either beat myself up and be like, you're doing it wrong, or I can just say, no, this is the starting point that I'm at. This is what I have to navigate. It's not a barrier. This is just something that as I do the work that I plan on doing, I'm going to consider your presence, but I'm not going to make it a part of your growth because guess what? And I'm not saying this for your marriage. Please do not take this way. But in my particular situation, he had to go because as I was growing, I started to see different things and I started to realize things that I settled for, doing the work and realizing that you are going to be an anchor to the person that I'm trying to get rid of. So even though I love you, even though you may be a decent person, I have to let you go because I like what I literally told him is, um, if I was my best version of myself, I wouldn't have chosen you. And it went over his head at the time. But as he saw me grow, he was like, okay, it makes sense now. Because, I could have, old me would have made every excuse to stay. But it was like, I was looking at what I do. Like every time I would check something off for myself, I would look around like, okay, who's here? What are you doing? Like you have to always assess. So when you look at it, you have to always assess what's around you.
Absolutely.
How are you affecting me? Are you an anchor or a catalyst? Like, what are you doing? Like, does this fit? So every time you level up, every time you get a new realization, you got to level up and look up. Level up, look up. Who's around you? Okay, you good, you good, you good. Nope, gotta go. Go level up again. Look around. You good, you good, you good. Nope, you gotta go. And it's not a one-time thing. And it's not I'm gonna do it every single. Don't make it so stringent. Just say, okay, I'm giving myself the space and grace to level up in my own time. I'm giving myself the time to understand what my race is, where I start at, what work I have to do. And then I'm going to reevaluate when I feel the need to, and trust yourself to know when those times are going to be. Because you can't say this isn't like a work checklist. This is something where you're going to actually have to feel where, and you'll know, because what happens, and this is another thing I want to add in this process. We've talked about several times in this conversation about listening to your intuition. Yes, listen to your intuition, but guess what your intuition signal system is? Your nervous system. Listen to your nervous system. There's going to be things that you feel like in their touch or things they say that's just going to be like, ooh. And that's going to start. You're going to be like, ooh, I don't know if I like that. Yes. Then if you listen and pay attention, it's going to intensify. Your body literally tells you every single thing you need to know. And it is not that it's ever broken. It's never broken. That's the thing. No. It's never broken. Your body and your intuition are co-creators of everything that you want to do. And they are literally, the nervous system is your signal, and the intuition is your guide. And it's like every time the intuition says something, it sends a signal to your nervous system. And that nausea you feel, those headaches you may have, all of those things that you have in place are there. But the problem is, it's not that they're ever non-existent. You don't silence the world enough to hear it. So sometimes you have to just, the more self-aware you get, the more it's going to get stronger. And every time you feel that and you're like, you know what, this don't feel right, trust that. And then it's going to be over time. And look up, level up, look up. Who is around? Do you align? Okay. And I look at it now. Now I'm like, I don't feel safe around you. Like, you're a great person, but my inner child is not safe. If the inner child energy is not giving what it needs to give, you gotta go, But old me would have never, right? But it took me 8 years to get to that point. This is not a 2-day thing.
Yeah, and there's something else though that I came to actually this morning, and I had to realize that you have to be mindful of the progress of the person that you're attached to.
Yes, absolutely.
In your assessment, right? Because remember, you've become a unit, but you're two individuals individually. Mm-hmm. You're whole by yourself. Yep. And then you come together to make something magical. Mm-hmm. So your alignment in your journey is also not going to be linear or the same because you're in the same space. Because you may be more involved than your partner, and your partner's trying to catch up and figure out what the hell's going on. Mm-hmm. And they're like, wait a minute, what's next? You love light, learning all the sage and crystals and things, or you're responding differently. It could just be how you respond. How you respond to things might be a little bit different, that now they got to get used to, because sometimes what happens, and it happens in alignment, and that's what resonance is, right? One person does something and then another person mirrors it, or they level up to it. If you ever look at two flames and one's really high and one's low, you put them close together, they end up balancing out. That's a resonant thing. So when you're in a partnership, you have to be mindful too of, is there progress being made? Don't measure it by, we're not aligned now. Is there progress in the alignment? Because why are we disaligned? We disaligned because I'm leveling up and you choose not to, or you want to and you don't know how to. And so there's layers, and I had to sit with myself today with this, because I was like, wait a minute, because I will cut the whole world out and have a grand old time. I love my solitude. So, but it's that you have to think about in your friendships, not just in your relationships, but your friendships as well. Everyone should have a purpose, but you also want to make sure that you're mindful of the fine line within the purpose of your friendship circles or your close-knit circles that you feel safe in.
Absolutely. And even though you're not gonna you don't absorb it, but you also, like we said, you have to realize that it's going to play a very important part in how you see you, right? Yeah. You cannot thrive in environments that want you to stay the same. You can't. You just can't. I always say it's like trying to, quit, smoking, and you ended up you trying to quit smoking in the trap house. Like you got to change the environment, and you have to be around people who want to see you grow. Like like she said, they may not be in the same place. And nothing I want to add, they could be at a different pace. They could be working just as hard as you, but their journey is different. But are they working with you? Are they trying, and you can't be like, oh, well, you're not where I'm at. No, but are you working towards something? Do you agree with me? Because one thing I had to let my ex go for was because I realized that, there was some envy tied to my growth, where it's like, you're not supporting me. You hating on the low. And even though you may not say it, me feeling it affects me. It all affects me. The doubt you have for me is going to transform into doubt I have in myself. So I don't need you around me. I don't need anybody. And we can't. And another thing, last thing before we get to the next thing, you got to kind of be cutthroat with it. You can't kind of, oh, I don't know, blah, blah, blah. Listen, it's like your growth depends on it. So if you lose people, let them go. Let them go. Because that's usually the universe filtering things out. If you're feeling unsure about somebody, explore it. Don't let any idea stop you. Don't say, oh, well, I've been friends with that person for forever. Or, oh, that does not matter in the grand scheme of things, right? So just be honest with yourself. Listen to yourself. Listen to your nervous system. But then also, last thing, where we're talking about unlearning labels, right?
Everybody got them.
But us have them.
Like,
that you can't depend on.
Right? Like what?
Listen, so let's talk about labels. And when we're talking labels, we're talking what?
How society uses them. And the should be's and all the things. When you're an entrepreneur, what's the label? The single parent, what that looks like. I'm very simple. Like, labels, are they helpful? They can be. But does it hinder or help? It depends. I always say that I'd rather a loose label than a tight title, right? Because, and there's a difference.
Sorry.
Because here's the deal. Give me a loose label. I'm a mom. That's my label, right? But the label, like a title, is like a CEO, right? Yeah. So, a label is like, I'm a mom. So that means that there's fluidity within that. That's why I'd rather a loose label, right? Because there's fluidity within it. That means today, mommy might be the silliest mommy, like the other day when the solar eclipse happened. I don't know who she was, but we all have an ice cream for dinner. So, but then it was last night, mom, that was like, get your stuff ready the night before, because we're not doing this anymore. There was that mom that showed up. So there's this spectrum of what it means to be a mom. And so it gives me the flexibility and the fluidity to grow within the label. And so because I'm so big on growth, I need the flexibility to grow. I need the flexibility to say, I'm going to make a mistake as a mom. But when you have a tight title, you are acting in a role. So I feel like the difference for me is a loose label and a tight title is the difference between acting your soul, who you are, and acting a role, who everyone expects you to be. So there's a big difference. And so for me, it's real simple. Give me a loose label over a tight title and I'm good. That's it. Boom.
The natural poet that you are. Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
I'm like, I don't know what to add, but no, I do. I'll try.
I know
It ain't
you
gonna,
do.
it ain't gonna, I ain't got no bars McGee energy, but I'm gonna try what I can.
Yeah, right. You got all the time.
I know I got to do it. But yes, I agree with everything she said. Like my favorite thing to say is I'm not the same person I was 5 minutes ago. I am ever evolving. I am always changing. I am present, right? I am looking around to see because when you are at the period in time where you are rising from the bottom, you have to be aware. You have to look up, like Naomi said earlier, she was like, I feel like I was more present because the beauty of being in that hyper vigilant state is you notice everything. And when you notice everything, you start to really realize what's truly around you, who you are, and how you're always changing. And you also realize the impact of the small things.
Yep.
The small things that you really would not have paid attention to before because you were so busy trying to fulfill that title, as she said, right? Because again, going back to what she said with mom, where it's like if you have the title of mom and you're, we all know the societal, constructs of what mom means. Mom is this, and what society says that mom should be, and moms aren't allowed to do this, and moms aren't allowed to feel this, and moms and all these other things that people say. And then the moment that we are not aligned or our behavior or feelings are not aligned with what the world says a mom is, what's the first thing we do? We start beating ourselves up and thinking that we are less of a mom, but we're failing as a mom, as if, and it's so, I don't like to say dumb, but it's so just asinine because it's like, if you really consider how humans are, how we operate, how complex we are, how we change, and we're always evolving, it makes literally no sense to hold on to any type of title outside of whatever you got for your job. And as you know, even with your job, they can switch it up whenever they want to.
Absolutely.
So at this time, just be who you are in this moment and really understand that you are evolving. And when you also understand, like I said before, also understand that everything around you somehow affects you, even if it doesn't affect you right now, it can manifest later. But also understand that nothing can affect you permanently or any way without your consent. So you have to really be present and say, okay, you know what? Like she said, this is who I am today, and that's okay. I may not be where I am because again, the real flex is being content in the process. Because a lot of times we can get so committed to the results, and the results that we think we want as we evolve no longer are the results we want. Because when I left the military, I wanted to get a good government job like everybody else. But then the moment I went to an interview, I'm like, okay, FTK, FTJ, I don't want a job, And now I'm like, okay, now it shifts. So it's like, okay, now I don't want this. So I literally, and anybody who knows me knows that I'm a master quitter, right? I know that, in every business that I've quit, wasn't always because it was failing. None of them have failed while I was there, right? Everything I had to do because I evolved out of it. So at that time, I'm like, okay, I want to make this hookah business work, and then I evolved out of it. So that's why it's important to really just lose lip. Because if I was so stuck on the fact that, oh, I am a successful hookah business owner, that's what I am, and everything's working, and everything's amazing, and blah, blah, blah. And I have this beautiful staff. I have this, I have that, and I'm so caught up in the title, right? And then it's like, when things internally don't match, I could hold on to that title because I'm too worried about being less than what I said I was. Mm-hmm. But I had to give myself permission to say, you know what? That doesn't fit you anymore. So now we got to do something else. And the thing is that everything's figure outable. You're allowed to change. You are allowed to change your mind. Your boundaries are allowed to shift. You are allowed to be whoever you need to be who you need to be. And it's okay. You have to really give yourself permission. Oh shoot. But yeah, so that is basically, that covers pretty much everything for labels. But we did it. We did it. I'm like, oh, that's it. All right. So now we have our mindset shift moment, right? What is, the mindset shift moment for you, Jeff?
I think my mind shifts moment, it's a tongue twister, is basically that I can happen to life. Life doesn't need to happen to me. And I don't need to walk through life saying, why me? Because life will always show me why not me. Mm-hmm. And so as long as I am the curator of the space that I want to have, I have that power within me. And so I just operate in that space, just being and letting my life just do what it do, but knowing that I have the power to create the canvas that I want. So I happen to life. Life doesn't happen.
Period. I happen to life. I like that. And this is also for you guys. So if you learned anything today, please share some things that stuck out to you, some takeaways that you have in your mindset shift. But for me, in my very beneficial channel, it gave me confirmation that I do need to spend, more time, with myself. And I do, but I need to kind of double down on that because I realized again with evolving that now I'm in a space where I got to go a little harder with the stuff. Like, you have the time where you go hard with the business, but you need to go hard with the self stuff just as hard as you do with the business, right? So it's about that balance. So right now I really need to focus on the balance and really understanding, all that good stuff. But then I also just want to remind everyone, biggest thing is keep evolving and understand and be present in where you are and understand that no matter what life throws at you, nothing can reduce you but you. Nothing. You are no less of a person because you're having a hard time. You are no less of a person because you made mistakes. You are no less of a person because you chose the wrong people. You are no less of a person because you let the wrong people choose you, because that happens. You are no less of a person unless you say you are less of a person. So the only way to ensure that you are not less of a person is to not tell yourself you're less of a person. You are enough. You are capable. You are worthy of all that you seek, but you are just going through some circumstances that don't quite align to the way that you're going. And that's always okay. All right. So Naomi said, my shift was realizing that everything has a time and my situation wouldn't and couldn't last forever. And it can't. And that's a real big thing, because we sometimes feel like this is my life forever. And it's like, so you feel like this big, terrible thing. It's like, how is it that we believe the negative lies and we don't believe the positive?
Just give it an expiration. I give everything an expiration.
Exactly.
Give yourself permission to have a tantrum. Give yourself permission to have a meltdown.
Yeah.
It's a bad moment, not a bad life. And know it's going to move forward. But give yourself a permission to feel it. Because when you don't feel, that's where the problem starts. You start stuffing and suppressing and forgetting. And then it comes up everywhere else. Allow it to be what it is in that moment. Cry, be mad, it's all good. And then let it pass.
Yeah. And exactly. Be present with yourself and allow yourself to feel all of the things, because you're going to feel all of the things and everything is going to go haywire inside of your body, and not even because you're making the wrong decisions, because you are leaving your chaotic norms. And now it gets to that point. And that's one thing that was big for me, that I was so used to struggle and adapting that when things got stable, that was more traumatic. And I was like, wait, nobody talks about this. Something. No, like nobody's talking about, that's a thing too. All right. Yeah. And then they would say, y'all gave me confirmation that I planted my seed, but need to water it more and position it in the sun, period. And you also need to, make sure you put that soil around that packet nice and tight. And if you got to change it out. But yes. Then it said, this is so good. Hey, everybody. Glad I tuned in. I'm glad you tuned in too. Thank you for the people who tune in for the first time. I am so happy you guys.
I know this was so fun. This was
the fiance.
Oh my
God. Very inspiring. Good work. Thank you, so.
Thank you. Because I was like, what do you say about that fiance thing now?
I know. And then everybody said again, somebody knows cry that thing out. Period. I'm a crying connoisseur. Okay. I will cry at a drop of a dime. And that is very strategic because crying is life. So I loved everything about this. Thanks for the free therapy. Period. We are always here for you. We are here every other Thursday, by the way, y'all, 7 p.m. Mika said, I'm glad you mentioned that because I was feeling stuck in something I no longer want because I made a vow for better or worse. Yeah, that again, it's like a long title.
It's a long time. Girl, put a loose label on it. Say change it. It no longer aligns.
Exactly. And it's not. And sometimes it's not even like I hate you. It's more so I love me.
Listen, it's not personal. It's spiritual, and let it be that. That's it. Because the thing is, one thing we just have to remember is that the one thing that's constant is change, and that's inclusive of us. We are part of this consciousness. So therefore, we can't make these promises that you are going to just be stuck and this is what it is because I promised. I also promised myself love, and I also promised myself growth. And sometimes our frequencies don't align. So you are on AM and I done moved on up to XM and we ain't even speaking the same frequency. So that's what happened. No love lost. It's just how it is. So give yourself permission to be okay with it. Just be okay with it for now.
Yeah, just be okay with it and don't try to figure it out per se. Just say, okay, like sometimes it just has to go as far as this is how I feel and leave it at that and leave it there. Leave it there and then open yourself up to whatever you need to know is going to come to you. And every single time it will. Every single time it will. Okay. Then VB said this was so awesome, so many gems. I'm glad y'all making us happy. But yes, so we are here to help you guys. And Jazzy, I think we already kind of covered the advice that we would give in the previous.
Yeah, I mean, we pretty much did it throughout the whole thing. I'm glad y'all took something from it. That's the best thing because I don't know. I get so happy whenever I'm in a space where I can share and be myself with people in a safe space. So I love this. But yeah, you happen to life. That is my advice. Don't let life happen to you. You happen to life because you have the power to do it. That's it. Yes.
Yeah. And my advice is just be you and learn to be okay being you and understand the power of existing. Sometimes you just have to be. Sometimes you have to just really tune into your human experience and really tap into, I'm having emotions and these are helping me. Emotions help you. I am experiencing, and sometimes the discomfort that you're experiencing is a refining moment. It's a refining moment to help you narrow down what you don't want. Because sometimes we go through things where we're like, oh, we make decisions and we keep subconsciously choosing the wrong things, right? And then it's like, it's not hurting enough. And sometimes if you keep going through it, it's just because you need to feel it to truly refine what you want. So trust that everything works in your favor. Your body works in your favor. Listen to your nervous system. Trust your intuition. If you don't trust it now, that's okay. Just practice trusting it now so it'll become a norm later. So yeah, that's all I have. Unless anybody had any questions you wanted to ask or anything like that, that is all we have to say. Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you.
We didn't do too bad. We got an hour and 40. But it needed to be. This was the one.
You know what?
It
depends on the subject matter, and I think this was great. Everyone, I feel
we let it flow.
We did good job.
Yeah,
we did good. It's our process.
I know it's our process. Yeah, because I was like, we don't really have a time really, but we just try to go off vibes, try to keep it as short as possible. However, we also try to, give you as much information as we can, because this is something we could talk about all night. So we actually did really good in our hyper-verbal glory. So, all right. So about Elevate and Relate, we are here every other Thursday. We will announce the next topic by Monday. If you are not following our page on Facebook, please do so. It's Elevate and Relate Podstream on Facebook. And then we are not yet on IG. We have to master Facebook first for baby steps. But also subscribe to our YouTube. If you missed any shows that we've done in the past, you can catch up with those on our YouTube. It's Elevate and Relate is our YouTube.
All the things.
All the things. So please subscribe. Please follow us on Facebook if you have not. We will be back here next Thursday.
2 weeks. No.
What a week? Oh, Thursday after next. I'm sorry. Yeah, 2 weeks. I know. They better be mad at me. Like, I don't know what I'm trying to figure out what day it was.
Don't do me.
Okay. The 25th, we will be back at 7:00 Eastern time. Again, the new topic will be set on. But thank you guys for joining.
Thank y'all for joining.
And see you next time.
Bye.